Chapter 2, Magical Disturbances. The morning after the Ice Sculpture Festival's chaotic opening, Holly Evergreen stood in her bakery, surveying the damage. The gingerbread cottage had been caught in the crossfire of yesterday's magical containment efforts, leaving a layer of frost on every surface and gingerbread shards scattered across the floor. Jack Frost leaned against the doorframe, his brow furrowed in concern. "I've never seen ice magic behave like that before," he mused, absently creating delicate frost patterns on the window. It was almost as if the sculpture had a mind of its own. Holly nodded, waving her wand to begin the cleanup process. "And did you notice how quickly Frosty disappeared after it happened?" "Something's not right here, Jack." As if on cue, the bell above the door jingled, and in walked a visibly shaken Frosty Iceheart III. His usual swagger was gone, replaced by nervous fidgeting and darting glances. "Holly, Jack," he said, his voice lacking its usual bombast. I wanted to apologize for yesterday. I swear, I had no idea that would happen." Holly and Jack exchanged a glance before Holly gestured for Frosty to take a seat. "Why don't you tell us exactly what happened, Frosty?" "From the beginning." As Frosty recounted his process of creating the sculpture, Jack conjured up mugs of hot cocoa for everyone. The ice sculptor's hands trembled slightly as he accepted his, the steam rising in stark contrast to his chilly demeanor. "I used my usual techniques," Frosty explained, "but I wanted to push the boundaries this year. I incorporated some ancient winter magic I found in an old grimoire. Nothing dangerous, mind you. Just a little something to make the ice more alive." Jack's eyes narrowed. "Ancient winter magic? Frosty, you know how unpredictable that can be. Where did you get this grimoire?" Frosty shifted uncomfortably. I found it. In the Whispering Woods. It was just lying there, half buried in the snow. I thought it was a sign, you know? A gift from the winter spirits." Holly and Jack exchanged another worried glance. The Whispering Woods had been the source of magical trouble before, and anything found there was suspect at best. "Frosty," Holly said gently, "we're going to need to see that grimoire. And I think it's best if you don't do any more sculpting until we figure out what's going on." The ice sculptor nodded dejectedly, promising to bring the book to them later that day. As he left, the cocoa in his mug refroze, a small but telling sign of his agitated state. No sooner had the door closed behind Frosty than Holly's communication crystal began to glow and chime. She answered it to find Mayor Candy Cane's worried face floating above the crystal. "Holly, Jack," the mayor said, her usual cheer replaced by concern, "we've had reports of other magical disturbances around town. Snowmen coming to life, icicles growing at alarming rates. I hate to ask, but..." "We're on it, Mayor," Jack assured her. "We'll get to the bottom of this." As they prepared to head out and investigate, Holly's crystal chimed again. This time, the face that appeared made her gasp in surprise. "Juniper?" Holly exclaimed, staring at the image of her sister. "Is everything all right?" Juniper Evergreen, Holly's younger sister, looked tired and a bit frazzled. Her green eyes, so similar to Holly's own, darted nervously as she spoke. "Holly, I'm coming to Mary Hollow. Today. I need to see you." Before Holly could ask any questions, the connection cut off. She turned to Jack, confusion etched on her face. "That was strange. Juniper and I haven't spoken in years, not since she left to study advanced magic in the Arcane Isles. Why would she suddenly decide to visit now?" Jack placed a comforting hand on Holly's shoulder. "I'm sure she has her reasons. But right now, we've got a town full of magical mayhem to deal with. Are you up for it?" Holly nodded, pushing her confusion about Juniper to the back of her mind. "Let's go save Mary Hollow. Again." Their first stop was Tinsel Lane, where reports of living snowmen had come in. As they approached, they saw a group of townspeople frantically trying to subdue 3 large snowmen that were lumbering down the street, leaving trails of slush in their wake. "I've got this," Jack said, stepping forward. He raised his hands, concentrating his frost magic. The snowmen slowed, their movements becoming sluggish as Jack's power overtook them. With a final gesture, he froze them solid, turning them into harmless ice sculptures. Holly, meanwhile, was questioning the witnesses. "And you're sure no one created these snowmen?" she asked a shaken elf named Twinkle Starshine. Twinkle shook her head emphatically. "They just rose up out of the snow banks, Miss Holly. Started walking and grabbing at folks. Never seen anything like it." As Holly and Jack moved on to the next disturbance, a house on Candy Cane Corner where the icicles were growing at an alarming rate, they began to notice a pattern. "Jack," Holly said as they finished dealing with the razor-sharp ice daggers, "have you noticed? All these incidents are happening along the old ley lines of Mary Hollow." Jack's eyes widened in realization. "You're right. But those ley lines haven't been active since we changed the town's magic 6 months ago," Holly finished. "Something's reactivating them. But what? And why?" Their pondering was interrupted by a scream from nearby Mistletoe Market. They rushed to the scene to find a bizarre and dangerous situation unfolding. The holiday lights strung between the market stalls had come to life, writhing like luminous snakes and entangling shoppers and vendors alike. "Oh, sugar plums," Holly muttered, raising her wand. She began casting counterspells, trying to unravel the magic animating the lights. Jack, meanwhile, used his ice powers to carefully freeze sections of the lights, making them brittle enough to break without harming the people trapped within. It was exhausting work, requiring precision and concentration. By the time they had freed everyone and contained the rogue lights, both Holly and Jack were drained. "That's the 3rd major incident today," Jack said, wiping frost from his brow. "Whatever's causing this is growing stronger." Holly nodded, her face etched with worry. "We need to get back to the bakery. Frosty should be bringing that grimoire soon, and I want to take a closer look at it." As they made their way back to Gingerbread Cottage, neither of them noticed the figure watching from the shadows of an alley. Juniper Evergreen stood silently, her eyes following her sister and Jack as they passed. There was a conflict in her gaze, love and concern warred with fear and something that looked almost like guilt. Back at the bakery, Holly and Jack pored over maps of Mary Hollow, marking the locations of the disturbances. The pattern along the old ley lines was clear, but its meaning remained elusive. "It's almost as if," Jack mused, tracing the lines with a frosty finger, "something is trying to re-establish the old magical network of the town. But why? And how is it connected to Frosty's sculpture?" Holly was about to respond when a knock at the door interrupted them. She opened it to find Frosty, clutching an ancient-looking book to his chest. "Here," he said, thrusting the grimoire at Holly. "I'm so sorry. I never meant for any of this to happen. I just wanted to create something beautiful, something that would really wow the judges." Holly took the book, feeling a chill run through her that had nothing to do with the winter weather. "It's not your fault, Frosty. You couldn't have known. We'll figure this out, I promise." As Frosty left, his shoulders slumped in dejection, Holly and Jack turned their attention to the grimoire. It was bound in what looked like ice dragon hide, its pages yellowed with age. Strange symbols adorned its cover, seeming to shift and move in the light. "This is old magic," Jack said, his voice hushed with awe and a hint of fear. "Older than Mary Hollow, maybe even older than Christmas itself." Holly carefully opened the book, and immediately a gust of frigid wind swept through the bakery, extinguishing candles and rattling windows. The pages began to turn on their own, finally settling on a section titled, "The Awakening of Winter's Heart." "Jack," Holly breathed, her eyes wide as she scanned the text, "I think we might have a bigger problem than we realized."